Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Easter Pod. I'm your host, Corey Easterday, and on this episode, we are chatting with the one and only Carol Tyner. Carol is a phenomenal human being. We covered so many things during our conversation. As she so eloquently put it, I believe in one of her social media posts about the podcast, we left not a crumb on the table. So many topics. She is a fellow comedian. We met here in Charlotte through the local comedy scene. And what really struck me about Carol, why I wanted to have her on the show, is not just doing stand-up comedy, but a part of one of, if not the best, improv groups in Charlotte, Shameless Improv, does nonprofit work, many, many other things. You'll have to listen and find out. It was incredible. We chatted maybe a record amount of time for anyone I've interviewed on the podcast, which is why I need to hurry up and get through this intro so you can get to that conversation. But it was just super enjoyable and really fit the tagline we have for the show. If you're a first-time listener, the Easter Pod, it's striving to bring you stories of rad humans that inspire you to engage the world with creativity and hope. Carol is absolutely one of those humans, as you'll learn. And also be sure to check out my previous episode with my dear friend Andy Weber, who's a photographer, videographer, creator of Good Humans here in Charlotte, Good Humans CLT on Instagram. And actually, another connection, Carol and I were both had the honor of being featured on Andy's Good Humans page. So check out my conversation with Andy, the previous episode. And what's really cool, too, about this episode with Carol is this is the 40th episode of the podcast. Episode number 40 of the Easter Pod. Very exciting stuff. And please follow the show. Many more amazing conversations with phenomenal humans coming up. We are at the Easter Pod on Instagram, social, like X, Facebook, all that good stuff. You can follow me at the Easter Dude on all social platforms. Subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes with an insanely stacked roster of guests we have for 2026. So please be sure to subscribe, interact with the show, share, rate, review, all that good stuff. Feedback always means a lot, helps the show. And I want to give a special thanks to Easterday Creative for joining forces with the Easter Pod to bring you these stories of rad humans, and to my friends at Token for helping to produce this episode. Be sure to follow Carol Tyner at It's Carol Tyner on Instagram. Follow Shameless Improv, Mountain Strong, Group Chat Girlies, We Rate Your Run, all her projects that we're going to cover in this episode. You can check the show notes, the description for all those links. Her website, caroltyner.com. Check all those things out for ways to connect and so much more. I'm very, very excited to bring you this conversation. So without further ado, my conversation with Carol Tyner. Well, I am very excited to introduce today's guest on the Easter Pod. We've only known each other a short time, met through the comedy scene here in Charlotte, where I've been able to witness her creative brilliance, if you will, on display through a variety of show formats. And we, apropos of nothing, we are very matching. We have green, we are drinking green tea, we have the same coffee cups. And I don't know if this makes me a great host or a terrible one, but we just had like a half-hour conversation about religion and politics and God and, none of it on the podcast. We'll see if we can replicate it like the good comedians we strive to be. But her star has only continued to rise in the comedy world, deservedly so. I'm so honored to be able to sit down and chat with her today. She's a stand-up comedian, improviser, host, producer, nonprofit entrepreneur, so much more. Carol Tyner, welcome to the Easter Pod. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I would like you to start repeating that in my ears before I go to bed each night. Just a little lullaby for me.
Well, great news. This will be recorded. You can just
You're like, that's the whole point.
hit the back button like 10 seconds. Don't even listen to the rest of the pod. Just keep it on a loop, the intro. Mm-hmm. I will say I've been doing so. I've had the podcast for about 6 years now, and so much has changed and evolved with it. But that's the one thing I've had going for me since the start is just incredibly, just gassing people up intros of like trying to say all the nicest things I can about someone.
That's so nice.
And I've always said that's I don't pat myself on the back a lot, but I will say I've had that consistent compliment from folks of like, wow, that's one of the best intros.
Yeah.
So if I do nothing else for you by having you on the show, I hope you take that encouragement.
I'm just going to put that on my website. It's just going to be a sound bite of your intro for me. That's going to be perfect.
Yep. That's all you're going to share from the podcast. Mm-hmm. Perfect. So no, I'm so stoked to have you on. I had your counterpart with group Chat Girlies, Skylar Shock, on a few episodes ago, and we were chatting. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have Carol on.
Yeah.
If I was really doing my job, I could have just maybe had you both on at the same time, but then I wouldn't have gotten to, highlight you both as the incredible, inspiring, creative individuals you are. So
yeah. I mean, we would have had like an hour and a half pre-show. So we would have never gotten to the point.
That's true. But that, honestly, that's one of the litmus tests when you have a podcast of like, we were talking, can you have great chemistry with someone? Can you? Mm-hmm. That's why, good hang with Amy Poehler, not to put myself in the same breath as her. Just won a Golden Globe because that's what she does.
Exactly. And I'm nominating Easterpod for next Golden Globes.
Thank you. I think there's like a $500 entry fee.
Perfect.
And I don't do video, so I'm already knocked down a few rungs, but
okay, well, I'm willing to try.
Thanks. No, I appreciate your advocacy. So I actually you might be able to help me out with this. I was trying to remember how we got connected, obviously through comedy in Charlotte. I think there was one show at Royal Tot that we were both on the flyer for, and that was like the first time I had performed with you or seen you perform. And then randomly ended up at the same like Good Humans function with Andy Weber, another previous guest on the show, and chatted for a while. A lot of mutual friends, obviously. A lot of like kind of overlap in the comedy scene. I've only actually gotten to see you perform stand-up like a few times, most recently at the Comedy Club at Duckworth a couple weeks ago at the open mic. But I was on your website, which is very impressive, by the way, that I don't even have a website for any of this stuff. So I was like, wow, I need to copy exactly what Carol's doing. But
thank you. I'll give you the name.
Yeah. But I felt you did a great job describing yourself from what I've seen when you've been on stage of, having the commanding stage presence, like the quick fire improv, confident delivery, like you're great at connecting with audiences.
Thank you.
It's you have a lot of the, if I can speak highly of you even more so from the intro.
Sure. I won't stop you.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You have a lot. It's a good thing to rant on if I'm going to rant on anything is how awesome Carol is. You have a lot of the intangible qualities that I'm sure you've noticed as well just in the time doing comedy that I feel like really helps people stand out in this world. It's not just can you write good jokes, tell good jokes. There's so much to just being on stage, being a presence, being a personality. So it's no wonder to me that, at least in the time I've known you, that you've continued to get more and more great opportunities and like kind of see your career really advance in that regard because you have all those intangibles and you did a great job describing yourself on your website and you're a great comedian. So.
Well, thanks so much. I mean, I think we can shut it down from there and no one needs to hear anything further. No, I really appreciate it. I'm still trying to see myself in that way. I think, there's a lot that I think I am just a naturally sort of dramatic person. I'm naturally somebody who likes to be seen. So a stage is not something that I shy away from, but I'm definitely still working on it. I was talking with Jenny Sensel, who's the owner of the Idiot Box Comedy Club in Greensboro recently, and she was talking about how headliners are headliners when they are the ones, you want to watch them for an hour tell their jokes. And if you could give their jokes to anybody else and it would be the same experience, they're not a headliner yet. And that was a very interesting sort of way to look at things. And I think I'm like, okay, I don't know that am I there? I don't know. But, I think that's a really cool way to think about things.
That's a great way to think about it. And I've only been doing comedy a little over 2 years, but I've been on stage a lot previously. And I think we share a lot of the same like core values when it comes to like performance. And I don't know if wanting attention all the time is a core value, but
it's one of mine. So
same, honestly. So I don't shy away from the spotlight.
Mm-hmm. The light in me honors the light in you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well said. But it is that like, yeah, you can, I see that with like the headliners I've met or like people you've been around that like really command the stage, and it's 100% the thing. And I think it comes from, so we were talking about core values offline in regards to a lot of those weightier subjects. And I do think that one of like having the core values of connecting with the audience and being a presence on stage and how you're existing as a personality and being someone that has core values that have nothing to do with comedy, basically having done the work as a person to figure out who am I, what do I believe, what am I about, like what, all that, like being self-aware, all that kind of personality and leadership kind of work as a person of just how do I exist in the world, what's it like for other people to exist on the opposite side of me, a lot of that kind of stuff. I feel like the people I've met that are the most successful, relatively speaking, in comedy are the ones that have been able to do at least some semblance of that work and hit the stage with like a pretty well-defined, this is who I am. Do you kind of feel like that's where you get a lot of your ability to do that on stage?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's maybe a super eloquent and beautiful way to think about it. I do think that my favorite type of comedy is when someone speaks or when someone's on stage and then I know more about them when they walk off stage. If I watch you for 15 minutes and I don't really know anything else about you, or I kind of can't break through the shell, I'm not as invested or interested. And I do think the best comedy comes from being authentic. And I think even if you don't have the same experience as somebody, if you're authentic, everybody can relate to being seen in that way. So I do try to be that all the time and try to sort of test if that is genuinely me or if it's representative of who I am. And I think probably my biggest challenge with that is I'm a woman. And so that doesn't always get the most buy-in from everyone on stage. But I do try to make sure that I don't sway away from talking about what I want to talk about, when I want to talk about it for that reason.
Which is, shocking to me, but believable that has been, let me put it this way. Have you thought like, why do you think that is, that would even be a thing? Because to me, that would never even register as a thing. To me, it's like, regardless of who you are, you're up there sharing your experience, being authentic to yourself. And even if I can't connect with it, like I can appreciate that on like an empathetic human level. So I struggle to comprehend why someone would be like put off at all by that.
Yeah, and for that reason, that's why you're one of my most favorite white males in the Charlotte comedy scene, and beyond.
I'm going to change my Instagram bio to that. Thank you.
White male in Charlotte comedy scene.
Review of Carol Tyner.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think there is a piece of me that I'm like, if I knew I could fix it. It's something that I was just talking to another comic in the scene about this. I was at the most eloquent way, not eloquent, the most succinct way I can describe it is through an experience that I had at a show. I walked up on stage. I did a couple of jokes. It was a very, probably split 50-50 women to man crowd. And I did a couple of jokes. There was a couple in the front row and the woman loved them and laughed out loud largely. And the guy she was with turned to her, put his hand on her arm and shook his head no, as if to say, you can't laugh at this and I don't like it. And so then I was distracted because I was like, oh, is she okay? Do we need to, actually form a circle around you? But two, there is something, my presence on stage makes some men uncomfortable. And then I make men uncomfortable by saying that I make them uncomfortable. And so there's just sort of this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I can feel it. You can go on stage and immediately be like, oh, okay, you hate me. And I'm going to have to do a lot of work to get you to unhate me. Or there's nothing I can do to change your mind. And I think sometimes people have told me they're tired of that scene or tired of that topic or that sort of trope. Oh, it's hard for women in comedy and it's different. But I think it's true, and I think it just, I don't know, until it's fixed or different, I don't know how to stop talking about it.
Well, to me, it's not really a trope if it's like a genuine lived experience.
Right.
It's not like it's not like, like you haven't had those experiences and you're just kind of pulling it out of a hat. Like, I'm gonna, like we were kind of talking about with how social media can be performative. You are not a performative comedian in the sense that, to me, you're not someone that's sharing anything that's inauthentic.
Right.
Which is a great way. I'm glad you kind of succinctly described what I was trying to say, which you've done several times already today, which I really appreciate, is that, at the end of the day, it's about being your authentic self on stage as a comedian, and people will more often than not be able to connect with you on that human level. And I learned comedy through Jason Allen King, mutual friend of ours, that I remember that was one of the first things he talked about was to be a really great comedian, like people should be learning about you through your comedy. And that's always been one of my challenges to myself as I try to write is like, okay, I know I'm not going to be the most clever person.
I think you're very clever.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. Honestly, I'll let you do turn this around. I need the encouragement. That's sad.
It's not sad. It's true. Everybody needs encouragement, but you're very clever. I think you're very funny.
No, I appreciate it. That's why my stage persona being the like, oh shucks, is like that's my authentic self.
Yeah.
Very insecure, like need affirmation kind of guy. That's my vibe.
We'll go outside and do a few affirmations and come back in.
Yeah. Just pause the show. But I agree with you. That's anytime I watch, because I've started to, since doing stand-up, I've started to watch other stand-ups like way more intently, way more of like for the craft side of it and the art, like how are they putting this together? What are they doing that's successful? And I do, broadly speaking, there's lots of details to go into with that of why someone's a great stand-up, but I agree with you. Broadly speaking, it's like you learn about the person. You feel like you just get to connect with them on a human level. And I feel like that's underrated because as you have, like, I see so much stand-up comedy that it feels like you are trying to be someone or something you're not. And even if your jokes are good, I just always have a way harder time connecting with that. So I don't know. I don't ever judge the material of like, whoa, that's a trope. It's like, that's what you're experiencing. Like, why not?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think, I don't know that I have anything significant to add to that. I would just be repeating what you just said. But yes, I agree. Yeah.
I've learned that's okay in the podcast format is I think we also get along in the regard of liking to talk and process things out loud, discuss or whatever. And that's something I've always had to remind myself, like, sometimes it's okay to just, Yep.
Ditto.
I don't have a monologue. I connect with that. So let me ask you some of the basic questions if I can.
Sure.
I'm actually curious of just how long you've been doing comedy, how you got started, like kind of walk me and the audience through your, journey up to this point.
Yeah, for sure. My long-term career background is not comedy. I started doing comedy after 2020, so COVID hit, and I decided, I think like a lot of people, like, oh, maybe I should consider doing the thing that I secretly want to do before the world ends again, or everybody is in a dystopian universe. So when the world opened back up, in early 2021, I started taking improv classes through Charlotte Comedy Theater. I always loved improv. I always loved SNL, and that's sort of always been, a pipe dream in a lot of ways. But I just decided to do it so that I could know if I liked it. I think as I got older, I did recognize that there really only is one way to know if you like something, and that is to try it and do it. There is no amount of prep or plan or thinking that can tell you whether or not you like it. So I did it. I loved it. Loved it a lot. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I've been right. Maybe this is what I want to do. And then I got brave through the encouragement of some friends and did a stand-up comedy class with Lauren Ansley and loved it. I think doing a class was very helpful. I think some comedians get a little bit self-righteous about like never taking a class or a class not being something that they needed. I really like it, and I encourage anybody who is thinking about getting into comedy to try it that way, especially if you come from a very sort of like standard matriculation career or, education type system, because it gives you deadlines, it gives you assignments and homework, and it just makes it more tangible versus being this very creative thing that you have to think through. So yeah, I've been doing whatever the math is on that. I've been doing stand-up for, I think, almost 3 years now, and then I've been doing improv for closer to 4.5. So maybe almost even getting closer to 5. But yeah. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
No, that's perfect. I agree with you on the comedy class thing. Even though my stage experience was primarily in church world, as another super light topic we were discussing offline that I failed to bring properly to the show. But my experience was in like 12th grade youth group or whatever. I gave my first sermon, and then I went to college and I became what we had at my private Christian school in Canton, Ohio, referred to as a celebration speaker.
Incredible.
So I did our student-led worship service for like my
Yes.
whole sophomore year. And I was like, wow, I'm speaking on stage in front of like hundreds of people right now.
Yeah.
So that kind of like launched that for me. And then as I got into nonprofit world late college and was doing like newspaper interviews and like, you know, interviewing people we were working with at the laundry project, like families we'd meet around town, like through YouTube, and just doing more like, oh, we're in the news now. We have a news story that I have to be in front of camera, or I'm going out raising money and speaking in front of like potential donors and groups of people or whatever. And then I worked in a church for a brief period of time where I was like giving sermons consistently and all that. So I had all that experience, but I agree with you on the comedy class thing. For me, it was one of the core values, and I know this is like always weird to talk about. That's why I have bits about it, because it's such a paradoxical concept. But to me, it was like humility is a core value of like, I know what I don't know about comedy. Right? It doesn't matter what experiences I've had up to this point to a certain degree. They can be helpful, but this is a whole new world. So there was so much value for me, like you said, having that structure, taking the class, having assignments, like. So I was glad you shared about that, because I think comedy, as I've experienced it, much like podcasting or any creative pursuit, is one of those things where the barrier to entry is super low.
Yeah.
Anyone can just go to an open mic or hit record. But to rise above it into a place where you can make a career out of it, be professional, is like a whole different set of skills. How have you experienced that as far as trying to become a professional comedian, you know?
Yeah, I think for a long time too, I didn't know how to bridge that gap. I got to a point where I started to realize that the time that I needed in order to pursue that dream was quickly outpacing the time that I had to spend doing it. And so I think there was just a straight logistical aspect where I was really squeezing every ounce of every day, and I was also extremely tired. And I was then performing not great in any sector of my life. Like in 2024, I got to, I think, like July, and I was like, I am really burned out on a very intense level, and I'm a little bit OCD, so I have an annual calendar that's on the wall, and I looked and I had like 2 free days in 7 months, and I was like, it's too much. So there was a logistical aspect of it, and there was a piece, which we've again talked about offline, but it doesn't seem related, but my hometown got hit by a hurricane, and that really kind of like accelerated my vantage point of the limited time that we have here to do the things that we want to do. So I did feel like I just sort of had to make a jump. And I was talking to another comedian about this recently as well. And I think they had a great piece of advice, which was quit 6 months before you're ready. I heard that after I'd already quit, and definitely felt like I was quitting possibly a little bit too soon, my sort of not corporate, but my old job. And so this is a long, as Louis could say, this is a long walk to a short house or a small house. But I feel like it's been a scary journey, and one that I just knew I would always regret not leaning in fully. If I didn't try it, and if I didn't go for it in a bigger fashion, I would never feel like I actually did it. So for me, it was more about ripping off the Band-Aid to say, okay, I'm trying it, I'm doing it, I'm being intentional about it. And there's really no other way except to just do it. And I'm privileged to be in a point in which I can. You know, I've been working for a long time, and I had saved some money, and so it wasn't as scary as a jump as it might have been if I was younger. But that's sort of how I got there.
Do you feel like starting comedy, like not being younger, like just being in a spot where you've had more life experience, has helped you as a comedian? Yes.
And I think initially when I first did it and found out that I loved it, I had immediate regret that I didn't do it sooner. It's like, oh my gosh, had I done this when I was 20, I could have done, I would be so much further ahead. I think the reality is, if I had done it when I was younger, I don't think I would have been as funny. I don't think I would have had as much life experience, obviously, but I don't think I would have been able to say it in a way that would have made me good at it. And I don't think I would have had a fulfilling experience. And there's a huge chance that I would have tried it and quit. And so I think, despite the fact that it's so hard not to feel the pressure of time, especially as a woman who's 35, especially as a woman who wants to do things like have a family and somehow do all of this at the same time. There's a ton of very loud ticking clocks that I silence every day. But I do think that my age has actually been a huge advantage, despite sort of feeling like I have to run an overdrive right now.
Yeah, I relate to a lot of what you're sharing kind of about your journey in comedy. I agree with you about the age thing. That's how I felt. I'm like, I mean, I won't repeat it. You said everything that I would say. Like, if I'd started younger, I don't know. It's like that paradox of more time doing it, but like I arguably would have been less funny, less successful generally. So even doing it, like trying to balance 100 other things in life, in this very truncated time period of like the last 2.5 years and like mid-30s and whatever, and only having so much time every day to work on it. I still feel like I've been more successful even with the limited time and capacity than, so I agree with you on that. And the life is short thing too, I noted in your story, because I had a similar experience with comedy of my mother-in-law, who I was very close to, passed away in 2023. And it was a very difficult time for our family. And October of 23 is where I started taking Jason's class because of that trigger for me of, like this, like I had lost people before and gone through, but it was very more raw and real of like, none of us are promised tomorrow. And this is something I thought about for a long time. So I would like to just do it. Yeah. So I think there's a power in that with your story. And then just the bravery to, I do, the more, we're talking about being on social media and how sometimes you can just lose respect for people of you're like, oh, that's who you are. That's okay, cool. Great. I find it also works in the opposite too of I've gained so much respect for people like yourself that I think it's an underrated quality and characteristic to say, I'm going to do the thing I want to do. I'm going to take that step, having no idea where the journey is going to go and having that bravery to just like step. I've always had the thought of like, I'd rather try it and fail. Like I'm going to regret much more never having tried it. Absolutely. Than if I try it and fail.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, regret grows so much faster than courage. And I think having the knowledge that it's just the case, you're never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel like you have enough of what you want to happen before something, like you don't feel ready ever. And that's just the truth about everything. And so, but yes, I think there is a lot of truth in knowing. We have only examples of people who say constantly, like, what does the older generation say? Do it, try it, don't live a life of regret. We have all these people who have done that and are telling us actively not to. And so I think that there's a lot of power in believing people and trying it and knowing, okay, if I don't do this, I will forever wish I had. And that for me, that got scarier than what might happen if I do try.
Yeah. And I relate to a lot of that. Obviously, I can't relate on the, like, being a female, like, being a woman level, but just having our daughter, Megan was pregnant, like, pretty much around the same time I started doing, like I had just done the graduation show of the class. And then, like, 2 weeks later, found out she was pregnant. I was like, okay, well, this will be fun to see how this works out. So I've gained a lot more empathy of her side of things with that. Because she's worked throughout. Like, we're not, unfortunately, in a position where, she can just, like, I mean, obviously once, she had our daughter, she's able to take time off, but we're not in a position where while being pregnant or even shortly after being pregnant, like, either of us could take significant time off of work. So just seeing her try to balance all that of, like, be like, I'm going to be a mom and then becoming a mom, being a mom. We were hanging out in here before and she was telling me, like, she barely slept last night because our daughter's still breastfeeding. And it's so I all that to say, I have the empathy and respect of, like, trying to balance, the career aspect of it, the wanting a family, the, like, all that stuff, and salute you for even trying. Cause I'm also a little bit OCD on, like, I'm very meticulous keeping a calendar and all this. And part of me sometimes will take pride in, like, wow, look at me, Mr. Busy. Yeah. But then I quickly resent myself of, like, dude, can you get, like, try to create some space or rest or all that to say, I just have empathy for, like, seeing Megan go through trying to balance all those things. It's difficult. Yeah. And I think there's so much to say of, even taking it back to social media, I think anytime you can see someone, and that is where I don't know, I have to draw inspiration where you can. Anytime you can see someone like Megan, who is, I mean, I think she's extremely inspirational for that reason of, I own my business. I'm continuing to do this. I have a daughter. Here she is with me, doing these things as we go forward. And I think that there's only going to be more examples of women who are doing that. And not that women haven't done that
the whole time they've been around, obviously. But I do think that there's just a bigger realization of the sacrifice that it takes in order to do it. And I think for me, that's the biggest question right now is which timeline will win first. Because eventually I can't outrun one of them. So I will have to eventually bend. But it's a wild journey for women as a whole. And I hope that eventually I am an example for people to say, okay, you started a little, quote unquote late. I don't really know that I think the 30s are late, but they are considered late now. And there is still opportunity for you. There are still things that can occur. This is certainly just the beginning and not at all the end. So
100%. And you've been inspirational to me.
Oh, thanks.
And so is Megan. I mean, I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense. It's a great segue to Group Chat Girlies because you and Skylar interviewed Megan very graciously at a recent event.
She was amazing.
So Skylar talked a little bit about it, but not going to assume anyone's listened, been able to hear. So give us a little description of what Group Chat Girlies is, how it came to be, and I'd just love to hear your perspective on it because I got to chat with Skylar and kind of her perspective. So
for sure, yeah, Skylar came to me with the idea. And it really stemmed, we met from a stand-up comedy show that we were both on. And it was a show that just went remarkably poorly, but we are so grateful that we now met. So we connected through that, and she came to me with the idea of having basically how do we talk to women? Like that's when we're on stage, the people who love us the most are women. Obviously, I don't want to just be a women's only comic, but that's who connects. So how do we spend more time talking to our audience? And so she had this idea of creating that with a live show that feels like your best group chat. And that really is what it has become. And it's a combination of live show and a newsletter. We have about a monthly, goes on about once a month for the live show. And then the newsletter goes out once a week. And it's a place for women to have connection and community with one another. And it's been so fun and so incredibly rewarding. And we've been really pleased with where we're at. We are just about to come up on our 1-year anniversary in April, and we are booking some out of Charlotte dates. So we'll be in California and Virginia, South Carolina, and moving through booking additional dates this year. So we're really excited. Every show is so different because every show is like a different group chat. Every show has a different energy. Every show has a different need. But it's just so fun. And women come up at the end of the show and are like, oh, I really needed this. I needed this outlet. I think too, we're finally in the section of life where people really want to be back in person. I know we've been back in person for a long time since COVID, but I feel like the itch for that and that interpersonal connection is just even higher. So I think we're really trying to make sure that we're on the correct side of that movement returning.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on the community piece. That was obviously difficult for all of us to go through, and the hunger for it is so much there. And that's something we also bonded over, just that love of connecting with audiences and being a community of people. I think stand-up, when it's going well, I can provide that a lot. And it's cool that you and Skylar found each other through stand-up, are able to then, and what I love about Group Chat Girlies so much, even though I'm not the target demographic,
listen,
it's just the gathering of community. I think it's so powerful. It's so powerful to create a space that is empowering people, uplifting them, inspiring women, gathering women, just everything you guys have built, I think is very empowering. It's very, it's very tangible. It's very practical. It's making the world a better place very actively by that act of it's a small thing, but I've always been a big believer that it's those small, what is in my control, do what you can kind of mentality that does change the world. If we all kind of had that if every person existed that way, the world would change very drastically. So you guys creating that space is, to me, doing what you can and having a big impact.
Thanks. Yeah, we really appreciate it. It's fun to see it. We've had a couple of women come up to us at other shows. I was at Duckworth not too long ago, and 2 women came up and said, hey, we actually met at a Group Chat Girly show, and now we're best friends. And I was like, excuse me while I go cry in the back. That's my dream. Thank you so much. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to watch it grow.
What about, I know you have a few other projects. What is the Lynns?
The Lynns. So the Lynns is a really hilarious and fun sketch prov duo that I'm a part of with Joyce Earls. She and I created the Lynns on accident. We're both from North Carolina, and we both have a tendency when we have one extra glass of wine to dig pretty deep into our Southern accents and become parody characters of women that we knew in church scenarios growing up. And it is deeply healing and hilarious. We do a lot of church cookbook work. So we dig pretty deep into the church cookbooks, and we've done some fringe festivals. A couple of years ago, we did a full Christmas pageant, which was really fun. And it's hilarious. It's one of my it's a super fun way because it's some improv. We will typically have a little bit of an outline, but a lot of it's just improv. It's hilarious. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Wow. I love that concept. That's incredible. And it fits perfectly with our discussion about church and like you kind of growing up around here in like the Southern Baptist culture. And I grew up around a lot of, just the way you're describing, I grew up around a lot of similar characters. I love that connection, which is a perfect time to mention you said something, you referenced something to me that I don't think I've heard somebody reference in like 10 years. And it really spoke to my soul about your experiences acting in Judgment House.
Yeah.
For the uninitiated, can you briefly describe, since we're on the topic of growing up around church world?
Absolutely. So my youth group participated in a Judgment House, which a Judgment House is essentially a highly dramatized situation, most of the time surrounding teens and drunk driving. And they fake, it's all an act. They fake a wreck, and then you follow through a series of different rooms and environments. You follow these teens' journey to heaven or hell. Ours was, my hometown is very tiny, and I remember vividly, like, they really went all out with the car crash scene. I think we had every ambulance that our hometown had available at the Judgment House event, and then you followed the scene throughout. You learn that one of the teens didn't believe, and therefore they definitely went to hell. And hell is being played by like your high school basketball coach, and that's traumatic as well. And so there's a lot of trauma. And then they get you to the end, and they after they terrify you, they say, "Who would like to be saved?" And then they get to up their saved numbers and get to be like, "Well, we saved 150 people." And it's like, well, you terrified 150 people. But I played the very convincing role of an apathetic angel, and I primarily just opened the door for people. My parents were not into this. They were very against me participating, but I wanted to hang out with my friends. So I participated, and I mainly ate a lot of the grapes off of the table in heaven as my primary role. But yeah, wild concept.
I really hope if you haven't, you start incorporating this into your stand-up scene. We'll do our own two-person show.
Absolutely. I would love.
Carol and Corey present Judgment House.
Honestly, don't tempt me with a good time. That sounds like my dream. It's wild. I mean, just that entire concept is. I really have no words for it, but yeah.
I love that there's an alternate universe where young Corey, who attended many Judgment Houses, goes through one where young Carol is acting as an apathetic angel and inspires young Corey through fear and terror to like get saved for the 15th time.
Yes.
And help the church up the numbers.
Yes.
I love that Judgment House, too, is just single-handedly responsible for majority of the therapy bills.
1,000%.
Around the country.
1,000%. I mean, there's no doubt.
You described it perfectly, because I never acted in it. I was never that cool.
Growing
up. But I was definitely like summer vacation, Judgment House, like Cedar Point amusement park. And, like these were the staples. And Judgment House was responsible, for me getting saved like no less than 20 times.
Right. Because that's the thing about religion, right? You have to be super sure you're saved. And that's, I think, what we said before in my sort of theory is like religion's working the best when you have anxiety because you just are never sure. You're never 100% confident. So you got to keep going back. And that's when it's working the best. Yeah. Did you do tent revivals too?
Yes, with the Power Team.
Oh.
Are you familiar with the Power Team?
No.
Okay. First of all, I just have to say as far as yes, it definitely responsible for a lot of my anxiety. And I always think of it like you're saying, like the Tim Robinson meme. It's like, oh, sweet, I'm going to heaven. You sure about that?
Yeah.
Sure about that? The Power Team was equally memorable as Judgment House, where it was I think I first saw it on like TBN, like the very same network that naturally aired Kid Rock's show because they so much synchronicity. I remember growing up with Kid Rock in the church. But the power team was 4 extremely jacked, muscle-bound. This is why I need to have a video podcast. This is just ridiculous describing this. But 4 jacked, muscle-bound dudes that would rip up phone books and break pieces of wood and like blow up giant hot water balloons that would burst and like bend steel bars for the Lord. So that I'm gonna have to like pause a second. Right? This is too much material. But that's what they would do. They would put on like a 20-minute show, and I think they probably still exist to this day. And they would say like, if we can rip this phone book, imagine what God can do.
Right.
And then it was similar like altar call.
Yeah.
So very as equally terrifying as Judgment House, just in a different way.
Yeah.
A different kind of energy, but the same.
Do you think that anybody that was going to the altar call for, you said Powerhouse?
The power team.
The power team. For the power team. Do you think they were going because they thought if they went up on power team night, they too would get these powers? You know what I mean? That's where I would be like, oh, well, all right. Yeah, what's the path to ripping a phone book in half?
Like, what's the life journey to that, too?
Right.
You know?
I have a lot of questions.
It's like I saw a meme the other day at the Winter Olympics of, like, the double luge where, like, two, like, ride on top of each other. How do you train for that? Right. How do you realize, like, wake up one day, I'd be good at that.
I'd be really good at that.
That's my thing with the power team is, like, how do you get to a point where you're, like, ripping giant phone books for the Lord? And they would have, like, stacks of wood on, like, cinder blocks. And then like karate chop.
Incredible.
Through the,
Yeah. Well, you're familiar with the direct line to heaven that goes on when you do have incredible strength. That's actually one of the tenets, I think.
Yeah, it's not enough that, exactly. You nailed it. It's not enough to have gone to Judgment House and got saved. You have to get swole.
That's correct.
For Jesus. You have to.
Swole for
if
Jesus.
you're not in the gym every day, like
then
ripping
what are
phone
you
books,
doing? Yeah.
You're not, do you even believe?
That's incredible. Okay. Well, that can be part of our 2-person show.
I'm kind of committed to this.
I will. Don't tell me.
That would be great. And then, okay, so the other thing, wow, how do you transition from?
It's tough. It's a tough one, but I believe in you.
It was very effective though. Another place where I got saved multiple times.
How many times can I ask, and then we can move on? Do you think you've been saved in your entire life?
Oh, I mean, no less than 50.
Wow.
I mean, I started when I was 4 or 5, and then just every chance.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, I went
4 or 5. Okay, incredible.
Yeah, I went to a Pentecostal youth group for a time in high school. That one of my friends who I went to that youth group with actually came to a recent stand-up show of mine in Canton, Ohio, like hometown show. And she was like, "You need to joke about that stuff a lot more." Like, kind of what we went through with that. But yeah, I would go to these conferences and they'd have all these altar calls, and like, there I am.
Get up in there. Yeah. What do you think that you were always concerned that you weren't?
Yeah, 100%.
Every time.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Part of the reason I grew into the adult that I am, that we were talking about, like the trying to do things with empathy and empower people and dignity and like take action and like the issues of our world, I think is because I was always so eternally minded in a fearful way.
Right.
And I think, on larger topic, I think most, unfortunately, people I know in evangelical Christianity kind of are this way, where you're so like focused on, I have to believe the right things, I have to get into heaven, I have to avoid hell. It's just like you're really, really striving to like not end up in a certain place in the future that you become totally disassociated with like what it means to live in the present and interact with the other humans around you. Yeah. And then everyone else kind of must conform to your pattern of belief. And it just kind of spreads like that. So for me, it was very much a result of that. And as I got older, I was around much more healthier Christian community like places and spaces where much more maturity and like, what does it mean to actually live out what we believe, that kind of stuff. But yeah, as a young kid, it was definitely a lot of the just above all else, make sure you don't go to hell. Yeah.
I think I had a different experience where I was just like constantly defiant. I just couldn't, like after the Judgment House thing, my church had a meeting and we're like, should we do that again? And, I think I was one of the people to be like, no, that was weird as hell. Like, we definitely can't do that again. That was strange. But yeah, I was never a good youth group girly. I was always, demanding crazy things like rights for gays. So it wasn't good.
Not a good fit.
No, I got kicked out of a lot of meetings.
Which one more reference since we're on the subject. This is like sparking all. Did you ever hear of the artist Carmen?
No.
So that you'll have to Google this. There's my friend who also grew up in church, and I joke about this all the time. We call him Carman. He was to no one's shock a big like Trump supporter. So he got like that was how he came to prominence in the last decade or so. But he basically was he never actually sang. So he was a Christian artist, like a CCM, contemporary Christian music. But all his songs were like kind of spoken word poetry.
Okay.
Basically. So he has one, Satan Bite the Dust.
No.
It's a whole music video of like a Western where the devil is like an evil cowboy coming into the Jesus saloon. And he's like using the Bible to like get Satan to like defeat Satan.
That's incredible.
There's another one, Don't Want No Monsters in My House Tonight. That is like, he's like talking about being a little kid and seeing scary monster movies on TV.
Right.
And then they visit his sleep as like floating alligator and Frankenstein and Wolfman demons.
Okay.
And he has to like rebuke them with the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
He had a movie that I watched dozens of times as a kid called Riot, Righteous Invasion of Truth, where he plays like a Chicago police officer that is like, fighting the evils of gang life.
Right.
And, saving young black kids everywhere with like the gospel.
Right.
And his like manly police presence. And like, we're going to start a riot, but instead of like your typical protest, it's like it's
a riot for Jesus.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
There's so much to unpack there. And I'm going to go home and hate watch all of that.
Yeah. So please Google Power Team and Carmen, and you can share in my very disjointed life to this point.
Great. I love that.
I don't know. All right. So I don't know how to transition to that. So tell me about We Rate Your Run.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Running for Jesus.
Running for Jesus. So We Rate Your Run is a social media series with my friend Heidi Hillman. We started because we wanted to do something fun. She's in the fitness scene. And I was on a run one day and thought to myself, it'd be really funny if you could rate everybody's run on the rail trail because there are so many of us. And so I texted her. I was like, I have this idea. I think we should do this. And so We Rate Your Run is essentially us on typically the rail trail. And we go out and we hold a sign up to ask if you are willing to talk to us. And then we rate your run. It's not really about your run, not really about your stride, not really about your technical form, more about your vibe. What are you listening to? What'd you eat before you started to run? Can you kind of bullshit with us? What does that look like? And we are just having a really fun time. It's hilarious. It's the thing that I get a lot of people reaching out on social media. Like, this is great. Like, have you seen my stand-up clip?
Forget about all that other stuff. You spend way more time doing this off the cuff.
Yeah, no, but it's super fun. Heidi's hilarious, and so we have a great time doing it.
I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely watched a few of those videos. Like, oh man, I hope they're there when I'm running one day.
Yes, so many people say that, and we do try to post on our stories when we're gonna go, because we typically we do get a lot of content at one time because we have very opposite schedules. So check out our stories if you are trying to get caught on a run.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't run that often.
Don't mention it again.
I did the 10K last year, and that was like one of the heights of my...
Yeah, that's further than I've ever run in one fell swoop. I get to 3 miles and think, why would anyone ever go any further?
Why do people do this?
Yes.
Okay, Shameless Improv.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of your claims to fame. Like, please talk about that.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much. Shameless is, such a fun, hilarious group. When I graduated from Charlotte Comedy Theater, the Shameless was started by Tony and Brian. They were looking to put together an independent team and was lucky enough to be selected to be on it. And it has been a hilarious and awesome journey. We are lucky to be able to do some really big shows. And it's, not uncommon that we'll have 150 or 200 people at our shows, which is awesome. And we've been able to perform in really fun places, the Mint Museum, the Beckler Museum. We have a show there tonight. And it's just a great, fun group. I mean, improv is sort of my first comedy love, and I think will always be that way in some ways. I also get to be really overly dramatic and insane on stage, and that's a favorite place for me.
Yeah, I've had the honor of seeing Shameless and you perform a few times, most recently at Duckworth, I think last August. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really know each other well because I was definitely in the receiving line. And I think I just had Skywar on the show or something. I don't know. There was like vague connection. Mm-hmm. Or I just met Brian or something, like whatever. Started to get to know a few more people. And I just remember just being like, hey, great job. Like, well,
No, yeah.
I don't know you, but you guys are awesome. Definitely fanboying a little bit. I was just like, oh, Shameless is great.
Listen, we will take all the fanboys we can get.
Yeah, no, but anyway, the point being, like, Shameless, the times I've gotten to see you guys perform, I don't know, you probably were a part of it, but it was like one Creative Mornings too that at Sharda's Creative, you guys perform. I've always been super impressed, and I don't know if you probably, but I grew up watching SNL, Whose Lines It Anyway. It's kind of funny because thinking about stand up, all my biggest influences were like the improv, sketch comedy, In Living Color was another big one. Mad TV, that was my main experience of comedy. So stand-up was like kind of this other thing. So I'm a little bit jealous that you like got started in the improv first and then did the stand-up.
Went over, yeah. I mean, truly, if I'm honest, it's like I said, it was out of fear of stand-up. But I'm very grateful for it. I think it makes me a better stand-up. I think that it makes me better at life mostly too. It allows a lot of quick thinking. It's really fun. Sometimes it's a little bit of like play therapy. You can talk some things out on stage. And we're really lucky to have a great group. I think one thing that I think most improvisers would admit to is that improv can be really good and really bad. And so, and the really bad can be done by really great improvisers too. It's the name of the game sometimes. But having the opportunity to do it with people that you enjoy it with is incredible. And it makes the really bad times very laughable at the end.
Yeah. And you guys are great. And I definitely agree. I can't speak, for your experience doing improv, but I feel like any situation where you get to flex those communication muscles and have to think quickly on your feet and all that definitely helps from like the stand-up comedy standpoint. Because I feel like I've become a better stand-up the more I learn how to just like be really present and engage with the audience and be willing to engage with like whatever unexpected connection or thing comes up or whatever. Because like you're saying about Jenny's advice, they're there, like the headliners are there to see you, and you're the only one that can give that experience. And part of that is like being present, being able to improvise, all that kind of stuff. But I love Shameless. You guys are great. Do a great job. Have you ever seen familiar with like Mike Birbiglia's work at all?
Love, adore, one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's who I aspire to be in like the storytelling and kind of comedy sense. Him and like Pete Holmes are big influences. Yes. Pete, because he can speak so well to the like, I grew up in church and, like kind of reconcile with all that and be great as far as being a stand-up. But they had a movie. He had a movie that I really enjoyed. I think it was Don't Think Twice. I don't know if you saw that, but
I haven't. But I've heard great things.
It was all about like the improv. Anyway, there's a lot of. It's just funny to me how like so many of my influences come from the improv world, but I've never done it.
Yeah, you should do it. Give it a go.
I would love to, but I don't want to make that about me. Shameless is great. You're great. Maybe I'll try.
Thanks
improv.
so much. Yes. Yeah.
Until I get the bravery we were talking about earlier to actually take the class and do it. We don't.
I recommend it. I do. Give it a go.
It's I love it. And as far as like stand up too, you've quite the accolades from stand up. Arguably, like you've had a lot of notable, but like you got to host for Tim Meadows.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Which I sadly was quite shocked that Megan in her stupor, like mom stupor, I'm tired brain, forgot who that was. Should have given her more grace for that. That's my B. But what was that like, just getting to open up for, speaking of improv, like a sketch comedy and stand-up legend?
It was really cool. When I was offered that slot, Joe Hunsaker texted me and said, would you be available to do this? And I said, yeah, I'll basically cancel my life. What do you need from me? Sounds fantastic. It was a great honor and an awesome experience. Tim was incredibly kind and gracious. When I arrived for the show, he was like, we have this green room and this is where I'll be. There is a private room if you'd like to have some space to yourself. I was like, no, I'm going to hang out with you if that's all right. No, it was a great experience. Super fun to see. And he was hilarious and incredible experience all around, and just really cool to see somebody who's been in the industry and the world for such a long time, just how they work and what they do. And he was super gracious, watched my entire set, which he certainly did not have to do. And I came off and he was really complimentary. And I was like, I guess I'll get this date tattooed on my forehead. This is amazing. So it was a great experience. I can't complain.
That's incredible. I remember seeing on social media, I was like, let's go, Carol. I was very stoked to see that. That's an incredible opportunity.
It was very cool.
And it's always fun. I mean, I don't know if you ever thought of it like this, but I definitely did. Like, whether it was creating the podcast, doing stand-up, all these different things. Like, I always kind of had in my head sometimes, like, oh, you're one show or one thing or one connection away. And sometimes that's true. But I found more often than not, it's like, you get that experience opening up for Tim Meadows. And obviously it's a great opportunity and can like really help build a career and a foundation. All those things are true. But you kind of like wake up the next day and you're like, oh, now what?
Yeah, now I'm going to an open mic tonight. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of that dissonance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, oh, incredible, you got that experience, and then keep grinding.
Exactly. Yep. There is only one way through. So,
but that's how you're even able to make the most of that experience is all the going to the open mic and grinding it out and.
Yeah, arguably, I need to do more of it. I got a little lazy with my open mic, so I need to get back to them. That's my 2026 goal. Got to be there more.
I know we commiserate over that. For me, my excuse, it's a valid one most times, just our daughter and her.
Yeah, having a kid is definitely a good excuse. Maybe I should get one.
Are you trying to Jason Bateman me?
Yeah.
Are you referencing that?
Uh-huh.
You're not gonna Jason Bate me into this.
All right.
Into the Charlie XCX like viral clip of like telling her she needs a kid and yeah. We're not doing that.
Fine. I was just gonna see if you're gonna take the bait.
Well, honestly, maybe I should though, because I could, the podcast does well, but I could use the numbers. So.
Yeah, get a viral clip.
Yeah.
We can press pause and say a lot of really offensive things and see if that can get off.
Perfect. That'll help us both so much.
Yeah.
No, but I do. I was thinking about it recently, and I'm like, I'm never gonna regret all the. If I can be, emotional dad for a moment, I'm never going to regret all the nights of like holding my daughter as she goes to sleep versus doing literally anything else.
Yeah.
That goes away so quickly.
Especially possibly being in a dive bar, listening to 50 other comedians go before you. It's a close second, I'd say, to spending time with your kid, but I get it.
Open mics are necessary and yes, can be taxing sometimes. So like, yeah, especially if you're like on last. And you're just like, all right.
Yeah. We all make sacrifices, Corey. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you even really care about stand up? Or you're like trying to be a dad and oh boy. So opening for Tim Mel, I know you got worked with a lot of other great comics. Do you have like a list of any of your influences that you think about like, oh, I'd love to like kind of emulate what they've done in their career?
I think it's really impossible to be an improviser and for that answer not to be Amy Poehler. I do listen to Good Hang religiously and really, I think that obviously she's just hilarious and has been a fantastic role model for so many people in that world. And yeah, you've already mentioned Mike Birbiglia, but that's a huge. I just love the storytelling element of what that looks like, and being able to. I love a longer pause between laughs if the laugh payoff is really good. So I can really sit with something for a while and be fine with that. And I think that he does a really fantastic job of that. I've really enjoyed Taylor Tomlinson's journey. I know that I'm just mentioning other white blonde females, but I'm aware of that. But I've enjoyed watching her journey for sure. And there are so many others. I could just sit here and start to name names for you of my favorite humans, but yeah.
No, I totally get it. Honestly, I might just have to cut that question out of future because it's so hard to just sit there. Like if the roles are reversed and you're like, Corey, who are your influences? I'd have to like pause for 2 minutes and start Googling and like.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, I should grab my phone so that I can make sure that I'm mentioning everybody that I'm not mentioning right now. But there are so many, and I think women specifically for me, I'm watching any woman that I can to say, how are you doing this? What's going on? I want to follow your journey, and yeah, you're just an inspiration. So
I unfortunately can't say the same always for my cohorts in comedy. My other white dudes out there. I'm definitely in a different. I'm trying to say this in a way that's not pretentious, but just I don't. The relatability you may have with women on stage, I have not found that I have that same relatability with all my fellow dudes.
Right.
So
and let's continue to keep it that way.
But yeah, no. The influence question is always so like a little bit nebulous. Like having a podcast is so fun, but it's so weird because you're. Like we're chatting about beforehand, like what to expect, and you're always trying to differentiate it, like not just have the same like who, what, when, where, why,
right
questions. But I do find like the influences thing, like for my music days when that was my big career pursuit was being a professional musician. People would always ask us that question. It'd be so frustrating because you're pulling a little bit from over here and like almost if you're the kind of person that's a creative that's trying to be in the world and like be present with people, you're almost pulling a little bit from everybody to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
So it was always the same thing in music, like who you're in, because I think people are trying to get a feel for like what's your style and what's your, but I think if you're doing it right, you're creating your own style that is this amalgamation of all these other things you've enjoyed.
I will say too, I think that this is not something that I expected to happen, but the more I do stand up, the less I watch stand up. My world is my algorithm is very infused with it, so it is difficult to do. So that's to say I still watch stand up probably every day in some capacity, whether it be like a small clip or something that pops up. But I am finding it. I've got to figure out a way around this. I'm scared of the brain seep of, is this my idea? I want to make sure that I'm not too, I'm not consuming so much that I always have that question. And there is, there's a few bits going on right now that I'm like, I wonder who started that first, and it's not because there's joke stealing necessarily. It's just that the concept is so the same. And it's so hard in today's world to have an original thought. So I'm trying to keep mine as original as possible, but it's hard.
I've definitely had that both. I totally empathize with that. I've had that both ways of like trying to be extra careful, make sure I'm not accidentally, again, most of the time you're not going to be directly ripping someone's bit if you're not intentionally doing so, but just the concept of it, or you can have like 75% of it that burrowed into your brain that you unknowingly like started to parrot or whatever. So that's always tricky. And I've also had the other way where I've seen some stuff where I'm like, oh, wait, I'm pretty sure. Wait, did I? Well, like that's a universal concept, but I feel like I made a joke about that. And it's not that like whatever, like you're not. It's not a competition in that regard. Like we're all local. Like who cares? But it definitely all that to say, it's the mind meld of it all, where you're just like nobody's out here ripping off jokes intentionally. Either way, I'm not doing it. Nobody else is doing it. That like is a well respected comedian, but we all can sometimes have that mind meld of like you'll be at a show, and I remember there was one show where I was going to make a joke about buying a plunger, and Luik, our mutual friend, another hilarious, amazing comedian, got up on stage and made a arguably way better joke about buying a plunger. Like he's a pro for a reason. And then I got up there with my meager plunger joke, and I was like, they're going to think I ripped it. It's just like the mind meld.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and here I am. I stole Luik's famous line earlier in this podcast. But
you did credit him.
Yes, I did.
There you go. We're almost an hour in, so I feel like it's a good time to ask this kind of question. For anyone that's made this far is like fully bought into. Yeah. I'm just curious because I was talking with our mutual friend who's also been a guest on the show, Craig Collin, about this recently, about just the insecurity of being a comic and the human of like, oh, I wish I could get that opportunity, or why didn't I get that opportunity? What do I have to do to get booked more, or do they like me? All the insecure thoughts that can run through your head. Is that something you still experience generally?
I think,
or did ever experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if anybody doesn't experience that genuinely and has never had a single thought that is in that vein or that world, I'd love to meet you, and I'd love to know more about you and your therapy routine and how much yoga you're doing and, what type of ketamine drip you're on. But I like something to let me know how you can get that way. So
they're on the power team.
Yeah, exactly. They've been to 17 judgment houses. I think that I am far less that way. I do think doing it older and being more mature definitely helped with that a ton. And I do genuinely think that the more opportunity that Charlotte comics as a whole get, the more opportunities that Charlotte comics as a whole get. I do think that it's sort of like the rising tide lifts all boats sort of mentality, and I really do try to keep that front and foremost. But I think, comedy is a single man sport. And so there are only so many positions and so many areas and so many places to grow. But I do think there is room for everybody. And so I do genuinely, especially now knowing that everybody's comedy is so different. And so if you didn't get a spot, or if you didn't get a slot for something, it's like, well, maybe it just wasn't the right fit, or it didn't bode well for that particular show. So I definitely try to have a much more positive mindset. I think that that's something that I've gained over the last 2 years of just like, yeah, there's room for all of us in this world.
I agree with that. It's been a struggle for me my whole life. Like joking earlier about the insecure, kind of vibe that I try to joke about on stage, or whatever. That comes from a real place. Like one of my first jokes I ever wrote was like, you've seen comedians say like they're fearless. Well, if I could title my comedy, it would be apprehensive. Because like I do have a lot of that I've dealt with my whole life. But I agree with you on some of your points about being older has definitely helped a lot. I feel like for me personally, even though there's a human nature element that you're always going to struggle with things to some degree, you can never fully turn it off unless you're on the power team, of course. But being in music and pursuing that as a career so young, I feel like I made all the mistakes I could have possibly made, like alienating my bandmates at certain points for being too, like comparing us all the time to other people, not being fully present, always being like, why aren't we as good as that? Why don't we get that opportunity? Like just having much more immaturity about the whole idea of creating and being on a creative scene and seeing like what opportunities exist and like striving for your own success. I feel like I made so many of those mistakes before I got to comedy that I was really more open-handed with it and able to let go a lot more of like, yeah, there's always going to be moments where I haven't gone out and done anything in a month because I'm taking care of our daughter and trying to work and doing all these things that I'll feel the kind of FOMO of like, oh, I would love to be a part of that. Or, am I good at this? Am I, some of the questions. But the more I've moved through it and really addressed a lot of those things, I agree with you 100% on, there's an author, Shea Serrano, that I have bought a lot of his book. He's a great dude, but he always like, he'll post on social media like once every month, like, somebody else getting a W doesn't take away from yours, or like there's enough wins out there for everybody, or the concept you shared. And I think that's so important of the more you can step out of your own human nature, your own mind, your own getting stuck in your own brain and the narratives you tell yourself, and step into the greater thing of like, oh, I'm genuinely excited and rooting for people. I think it has the, it has an effect that like it's you wouldn't think it would have on you, where it's like, this helps me be a better comedian, this helps me exist better in this space or exist better creatively, because I'm not bogged down with all the like worrying about other people or thinking about their journeys. Like I'm focusing on what, it's counterintuitive, but it's like the more I'm able to celebrate and root for other people and create that's one of my big goals here, start producing more you can create opportunities for other people. It just really, and like I found this in the nonprofit space a ton, the more you just step out of yourself and really engage with like the health and betterment of the community I'm in, whether that's the stand-up community or whatever, I think it makes you a better person. It makes you like honestly more well-suited and more able to take advantage of those opportunities when they do come your way. Absolutely. And I think that I think that our community is filled with great comics, great producers, and a lot of just being friends with people and caring about their journey and caring about what they're going through will produce opportunities in of itself. I've had several people book me because they'll say, "Hey, I reached out and I need you," and sometimes it's just like, "I need a woman." But that's been a huge piece that I think is helpful. Also, it's very tiring to have such like negative thoughts around it all the time, and I find that there's just not a lot of space in my day for that anymore. So, yeah. I agree with that. That's maybe been one of the best unseen benefits of becoming a dad and stuff, is like, I just don't have the energy for like bullshit of most notably my own. Like, yeah. Let alone other people's, sure. But I mean, I more so think of that in regards to myself. Like all the little mental traps and hoops I give myself to jump through every day. I'm like, I'm too exhausted to deal with any of that for myself. So like, isn't it so much more freeing to just let it go and just be able to more have the freedom to like really cheer other people on and connect with people, instead of always looking at it through the lens of like, well, how do they see me, or how am I doing, or what, Exactly. It's exhausting. Yes. I feel bad that we kind of left this. I referenced nonprofit world. I feel bad we kind of left this toward the end of the podcast. But talk to me about Mountain Strong. You are, as I mentioned up top in the intro, nonprofit entrepreneur. I'll let you explain. I won't get into I was reading the story recently. It's very inspiring, very encouraging. Talk about taking action, the bravery to like step forward and like do something that's making an impact in the world. So just, talk about that organization, how it came to be, what you do, your ties to it personally. Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned it earlier in the pod, but the Hurricane Helene hit my hometown in September of 2024. I think most people are familiar with the impact that it made in rural Western North Carolina, and specifically the more rural counties, Yancey, Mitchell, which is where I grew up, were hit really hard and initially didn't get as much media coverage. So Mountain Strong came to be from a
a girly group chat, which is a fantastic tie-in to the rest of my life. But 7 of us who went to high school together have always had a group chat. And when the hurricane hit, we used that group chat to get updates from one another on our families and what people could understand was happening, because there was no service in town for quite some time. So there was no way to know what had happened. There was no way to know who was safe or what had gone on. So there was about a 48-hour period of just total darkness where we had no idea the severity of the situation. And once the news started coming out that it was extremely bad, we sort of turned that group chat into action, and we launched what we thought would just be one GoFundMe fundraiser that would allow us to buy food, water, gas, generators, things of that nature, and take those back into our hometown. And so we had a $5,000 goal, and in about 10 days, we had raised over $100,000. And we were like, oh, okay, wow, maybe this has bigger legs than we thought. So we just kind of kept going. I'm a nurse by education, and so I went back home about 48 hours after the storm, and one of our nonprofit team members and board members, her husband is a physician, and he had been at a field hospital, or what became a field hospital at the fire department, for a long time by himself, sort of triaging, and that had really become the place to bring people that were injured. We don't have a hospital in my hometown, and the closest one is typically about 20 minutes away, but with road closures was, far and away from that. So ultimately, Mountain Strong sort of became this connection point for people to be able to have access to things. We had a very impressive group of women with a lot of different backgrounds. So we finally got Wi-Fi at the field hospital, where we ended up spending the vast majority of our time. And it just became something much bigger than we could ever really imagine. We supplied a lot of the medications and the immediate disaster supplies that they needed in terms of medical supplies. And then we supplied a ton of gas generators and a wide variety of rebuilding items to our hometown. So since 2024, we've raised just under about $800,000, the vast majority of which is already back in the community. And we're now in it for the long haul. The field hospital became sort of the easiest place for us to dig into because of our connections, and I was there all the time. And we had a great group that was our local nurses and our team there that was making things happen when we arrived, and we just were able to kind of help out with supplemental items. But we really learned through that experience that people needed to lower the threshold for care in our communities. So Helene not only was a terrible disaster, but it also just uncovered and exposed the gaps that always exist in the systems. And so that's what we really continued to see, is that even though a lot of the rebuilding is continuing to happen, there's still a long way to go, but a lot of the gaps that existed just worsened. And so we are now setting up a permanent free clinic in my hometown, to be able to serve our community for uninsured and underinsured individuals. We also have a local scholarship for those who are pursuing medical-based careers, so that hopefully they will come back and serve our community. And we do a wide variety of community funds and community projects as well, to kind of keep the rural county as equipped as they can be. So our goal is really to always fill the gap. We really feel passionately that we don't want to duplicate efforts as much as we can, but that's our goal. So it's been an incredible journey, not one that I ever anticipated going on at all, but one that was definitely super eye-opening and has been a really incredible bonding experience for all of us involved.
That's incredible. I love the idea of, so I've always one of the books that really inspired me early on in my own journey into like nonprofit world and getting passionate about that was called Toxic Charity by an author named Bob Lupton. And so much so that in our fanciful Starbucks barista boards of like, what's your favorite color? What do you know? That was my like favorite book on there. Mm-hmm. So customers in wealthy suburban North Canton, Ohio could just walk in and be like, that's weird. Why is that? Who reads that book? That kid, how old is that kid? But it talks about the idea of, okay, so when there's a crisis like the hurricane, Katrina, all these different disasters that we've seen just completely tear apart and change the fabric of communities, there's very much the need for the crisis response. Like you were saying, like what needs to happen in this exact moment to help people be okay. And then what I love about what you described about your work is doing that, we have the crisis moment, we're in it, we're like making it happen as we're, boots on the ground. And then keeping it going, the aspect of now there's a rebuilding period. There's a community development that needs to happen. There's an empowering that needs to happen. There's just we need to question and rebuild the very systems that existed and do what we can. Obviously, that's like one of our nonprofit mantras with current initiatives, like do what you can. But it's the idea of we're not in that crisis mode anymore of like just get food and water. And, those things are good and people need those things certainly. But like, how can we do something like the free clinic, like these things that are going to like have a lasting impact in the community? And there was another book, an author, Shane Claiborne, who I've actually had the pleasure of meeting a few times, and he sponsored like a laundry project one time. But he started what was called the Simple Way in Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia, where randomly I stayed with friends that were doing like a ministry house there the weekend I proposed to Megan, and there was literally someone sleeping on their front porch. And Megan, understandably, did not think that was the weekend I would be proposing. But just being in these, so Shane Claiborne, I remember him talking about one time, because what they were trying to do is similar community development thing in that neighborhood, and the idea of it's not just give a man to fish kind of concept, but it's like we have to question the pond they're fishing in, and these systems that created the need to fish, all that kind of stuff. So just diving deeper. So all that to say, I appreciate the holistic nature you described of it started as this, but now it's like morphed into this, and we're trying to build things that are sustainable.
Absolutely. I think that, we sort of joked that when we made the decision that we are going to continue and not, you sort of had to decide, okay, well, we have all this money. Are we just going to give it to somebody else? Or are we then going to be the stewards of this money and figure out what to do with it? And we were really lucky to have a group of women who had very different backgrounds. We have a physician, I'm a nurse, we have somebody in finance, we have somebody in marketing, we have a teacher, and someone who has she also has her PhD. We have incredible team members. We have a lawyer. So we got very lucky with just like building a very easy to work with board, but it became very clear to us that we were not willing to let it go because it's a place that's so special to us, and we wanted to be able to kind of steward that forward. And we wanted to not just be that swoop in, well, here's a quick fix, and then we're going to go and sort of take valor for coming in a time of crisis. It's like, well, no, okay, now we're going to stick it out and see what else needs to happen. So we're trying. It is a wild transition from disaster to like a longevity situation, because we were working on so much adrenaline for so long, and we really have to remind ourselves that we're not in that phase anymore. I mean, we went from a phase of me running back to the field hospital to text to say I need the following suture supplies, and then I would get a text back in 30 minutes. It said there's a helicopter landing with it. Here are the coordinates where you need to go meet somebody. We went from that to setting up legal contracts. And it was just a very different world. And we constantly have to remind ourselves that we are not in that disaster timeframe, mindset, or adrenaline rush anymore. And we can really slow down to look at the longevity of things.
Yeah, that is quite the transition. And it's great that you have a team of you, though, that has such different skill sets that can contribute, because that's one of the big things I found from nonprofit work in general is that whole idea of, it's cliche, but it's very true, just it takes a village. We all have different skills and things we can bring to the table. And when you start recognizing that and seeing how those puzzle pieces can fit together, I think that's how you can really expand and grow like the impact of it as opposed. And I like that you talk about the duplicating of services, and because you're also looking at the ecosystem of what are the other organizations in the area, how can we partner with them? So you're looking at all these different layers of trying to find your place, and then how do our gifts and things that we are trained in fit together? But then, how can we fit together with the other people doing work?
Yeah, I think it's a nonprofit world is such a different world, even from the medical side. Standing up the clinic, I was like, okay, well, have background in healthcare administration and practice administration and all that lovely piece, but the nonprofit sector is so different. I do find that there is a ton of duplication in the world, and a lot of but we do this and it's 1 degree different, and that's why. I'm like, God, it'd be great if you guys could just combine those efforts, So we are trying to make sure, and there is definitely, I want to be clear in saying that there are FQHCs in our hometown. There are people who can see these individuals, and we are trying to partner with them to make sure that we are not just an extra person for that or cannibalizing patient populations. Anyway, those are logistical things that I just like to highlight. But yes, I think just making sure that we can do the most with what we can, give the town.
Listen, I'm here for all the nerdy logistical pieces of nonprofit world. Whenever I leave here, I'm gonna like find time later to get on my computer and like go through like donation stuff and send out tax, so I get it. Yeah, it is that interesting piece to me of like, yeah, that's one of the every industry has this kind of like, well, it'd be great if we could improve on that. But yeah, nonprofit world, the struggle it can be to partner together and like figure out how we can like have a broader impact together instead of, each person kind of doing their own version of it, as opposed to like, yeah, how do we combine forces better is always a big struggle. But the work you're doing with that is awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely want to give you space in a few minutes, like how people can support and connect with it and all that jazz. But I find it inspiring too, because, it's there for me. I've always, part of the reason I like doing the laundry project, and we do another thing called Affordable Christmas, where families can buy like brand new gifts at a tenth of the cost, and parents can be the hero for their kids. And we do like a Hope for Homes project. So we've done all these initiatives that have been long running for the last 18, 19 years, whatever, however long it's been. 2008. Yeah. So like 18 years, I guess, whatever. But the point being like trying to develop things that are sustainable and consistent, and that help with the overwhelm of like, how do you even start? How do you even get involved? And that's the kind of where I think your story is so inspiring to me in the nonprofit space, is that getting past that overwhelm of like, what do we even do? How do we even dive into this when there's that like immediate crisis, and finding a way to get in there, get involved, and like move forward. Because I think that's what trips a lot of people up, is we want to help, but like, where do we start? It's so overwhelming. So to be able to even like engage with that, I think is inspiring.
Thanks. I appreciate it. We're trying our best.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing great. And that's another thing we can nerd out on for much longer, all the nonprofit stuff.
Yeah, I would love to.
But, okay. So this has gone exactly as I anticipated, that we're, a little almost to the hour and a half mark.
Perfect.
I knew we'd have a lot to talk about, so I'm glad. I appreciate you making the time and creating the space to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for letting me blab.
Oh, not at all. It would have been a shame, honestly, to me to just be like, you like Megan and I were saying multiple times before we started the podcast, we're both so starstruck by you. You're like, guys, stop it.
Stop.
It'd be a shame to like have Carol Tyner dedicate time out of her day to be on your podcast and only give her like 20 minutes. Like, what is that?
Thank you. Please tell that to everybody in my life.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not good hang. Best I can hope for is medium hang, probably. And thank you for laughing. That's a bit you heard before the show.
It's so funny. It's good.
Okay. Well, we're kind of wrapping up. So I'm trying to find a way to, like, I want to ask the same question I kind of ask everybody, but basically I want to spin it forward. Like, I don't know if you have goals in comedy or nonprofit or otherwise kind of for this year you'd like to highlight a little more, or if you have encouragement or advice to anyone that is wanting to pursue or get better at the things we've talked about, like improv, stand-up, all that kind of stuff. But I'll kind of open-ended, how would you spin it forward, encourage people, goals you have, all that stuff?
Yeah, maybe to talk about the last part first. So in terms of encouragement for people, I do think that I don't know that I feel always adapt to tell people, and here's how you do it. But I alluded to it earlier, and I do think that there's a lot of truth in this, and it's something that I had to learn for myself, is that the only way to know is to try. And I was somebody who really wanted to do a lot of prep work, or I wanted to have whatever the ideal situation was for me before trying something so that I could theoretically try it the best that I could. And that just will never happen. And so do whatever, something Skylar's taught me that I think is super helpful and applicable here is do whatever the least, the lowest threshold to entry of that thing is. You think you want to be an actor? Amazing. Go do a webinar. Just do something. Go be an extra on something and see if you even like to be on set, because you just don't know. And I think even in the world of comedy, there's things that every day I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be part of it, And so I think that there's a lot that you just don't know. So as cliche as it is, there's a reason that every podcast has somebody saying as cliche as it is, because most of the cliche things are true, which is that you just simply have to try, rip the Band-Aid off, do something small. You don't have to win an Oscar tomorrow. You can just go do the first step. So I think that would be my first thought. And there is a lot of opportunity for creative things in Charlotte. So go to a creative morning. Just meet people who are doing something similar to what you want to do. As far as my own dreams, I finally am comfortable admitting that I want to have success and fame for my creative life. And I think that is something that maybe is cringy to say, maybe is too much to say. I don't know. I decided that I was going to stop not saying it. Yeah, I would love to be famous. Please make me famous. That would be fantastic. But I want to be because I'm good at something, because I am inspiring to somebody, because it is something that people feel passionate about, or that they connect, or it resonates, or it's a voice that they feel like, oh, that's exactly how I feel too, and I want to continue to share it. So I'm hopeful that who I am and what I'm doing and being brave and trying can sort of persevere and show that to people in that way. We're really proud with Group Chat Girlies that we were able to take the show out of Charlotte. That was our goal for a year, and we've met that goal in just under a year. So I'm really excited to be able to go to other markets and explore that for sure. And that's a huge part of our stand-up success too, is being able to just prove our voice in other cities. So we're really excited about that. And then in the nonprofit space, we've got a lot of work to do just for initial setup. But to me, it'll be a huge success if at the end of the year we are open and serving people and making a difference in the community in the way that we hope we'll be able to do for forever.
Yeah, well, as someone we touched on briefly, that growing up I had to use a lot of those services. I had to attend many free clinics and do truly noble. I really can't say it enough. That's inspiring work. I loved it. I'm excited to see how that grows and moves forward, and honestly, how I can support it. Part of having a kid the last year and a half and going through that is you kind of get wrapped up in the tornado of just daily with the chat, and as she gets older, the skies open up a little more of sure. Engage with the world. So I'd love to be a better support of what you're doing with that. I think it's incredible. And then comedy, yeah. I mean, Carol Tyner Stadium Tour 2027.
That's right. Reasonable goal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you? This is going to be one of those questions you referenced there, where I'm going to ask you, and you're going to be like, "Can we edit that?"
Yeah.
I don't have an answer. Stadium tour name? Do you have a?
Oh, yeah, I do. Are you ready for it? I think because I think that what will happen is the thing that I didn't want to happen, which I think it'll be everything all at once. So I think everything in my life will be happening at one time. I think the idea of I'll quickly run out and get famous before I have to have a kid, or before I have to, none of that's going to happen, right? It's all going to happen all at the same time. And so I think that will be the theme of the tour, is it'll never fail that I'll be 9 months pregnant on my first actual big stage. I'm like, oh, perfect. This is being filmed from multiple angles. That's great.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, we do not have a lot of control over how it all happens, as we mentioned. Yeah, being a dad and starting stand up and doing it, it's all going at once. So no, but I love that. I love that you said that, honestly, because I have those same aspirations. Listen, I think I think you're a self-aware person. I try to be self-aware. I like to think that the majority of us out there that have those aspirations, they're not unfounded, that they don't just come from nowhere. Granted, there are plenty of people that have a similar aspiration that probably, maybe not as strong in the self-awareness department, that we've all, what it is, that's humanity. But why are we spending all this time, creating what, if there's no bigger goal?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that whatever, it might come off, I would worry too, about how would that come off to people if I'm saying it like that? But at the same time, it's are we spending all this time, not having a larger vision? I think what I'm trying to say is I think having a larger vision and having something to funnel all this stuff through, all these opportunities, all the ways you can spend your time, having things that can filter, we were talking about that with the podcast. There's so many people out there that I love as humans that I'm maybe wouldn't be a good fit for the show. You think about that when you're producing stand-up, whatever. Mm-hmm. There's all these types of things. It's you have to have some filter that's not so self-involved or mean or whatever, but it's just this is my end goal. So how am I achieving that is what I'm doing, working toward achieving this greater goal. Because we can't afford to be out here wasting time, especially if you're trying to have a family and all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I got to get to it. We got to make it happen faster than you'd hope,
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's one of those things where I'm oh, okay, that just sounds dumb, or it sounds, or maybe it doesn't sound oh, she doesn't understand the time that it's, I probably don't. And it's not that I assume that this can just magically happen for me in the case of it, if it's not happening for others. I don't think that. I just am now comfortable saying that is what I want. So I'm going to always be working towards that.
Yes, and you should be comfortable with that because it's never going to stop being a grind, no matter what level of success you reach. So really falling in love with the work of it, that's something I've had to realize the last couple of years in doing stand-up is, was this a one-off, like I proved I could do it, or is this something I really want to be professional at? And the daily work that's involved with something like that. And I think that helps you in the long run. Just how, like, some of the most successful stand-ups we've ever met or seen or whatever, like, they are probably the hardest worker. I know for a fact they are. They're the hardest workers. I remember Pete Holmes, like, seeing him in LA at the Rob Bell thing, and Rob Bell, like, complimenting him so much, like, he's one of the hardest working people I know. But back then, since I hadn't done stand-up, you know, we all kind of have this idea, like, oh, he's just a funny guy and sits around and what. And it's like, no, he's like, that was right before he started doing Crashing. Like, he told us at the conference, he's like, oh, I got this new show coming out. And it's like, that dude's like grinding every day to make this happen. And yes, he's successful at it, but I think it's falling in love with that piece of it, giving yourself that like long runway and filtering, like, what am I doing through this greater goal? And I love what you said. I've gained enough. Maybe I don't have a ton of self-confidence yet. I'm still working on that, but I've worked in the creative space long enough to be like, yeah, you're definitely someone, you're not crazy to have that goal. Like, I can confidently say that about other people, at least. Like, I wouldn't have had you on the podcast if I didn't see Carol Tyner Stadium. That sounds bad out loud. Let me rephrase that.
I'm going to actually take this episode down if I don't see a stadium tour from you in 2027.
You're worthy of being on the show you currently exist. I'm not trying to ride your coattails as you achieve greater success.
Please hop on them.
Yeah.
Please extend the same to me.
Will do. Yeah. That's why I waited to have you on until I was averaging at least, 130 downloads an episode. But no, I don't think you're crazy to have that goal is my point at all. I think you're very talented. I mean, I wouldn't have had you on the show right now otherwise if I didn't feel that way, but I think you're totally within the realm of reality. You and Skylar equally to, like, I think it's so cool you're able to take Group Chat Girlies on the road and do that. Love seeing success for both of you, but I think you're both, just because we're referencing Group Chat Girlies, like, I think I said the same thing to Skylar. Like, it's not crazy at all to, you guys can achieve all the success you want. And you already have in so many ways. And it's cool to, like, see you on that journey. And I just love the advice you shared about taking the first step, because that kind of is an answer to the overwhelm thing that I feel on a daily basis, whether it's a work project or whatever. It's like, take the first step.
Yeah.
It's valuable.
Exactly. And just see. I mean, and it's like usually just as easy as filling out a form online. Like, usually it is pretty small. And then you just got to go and show up and try it. But
yeah. I think this might be the longest episode I've ever recorded.
I'm not shocked to hear it. I told you that I don't shut up, so.
No, I'm glad for it. It's been great. I've super enjoyed chatting with you. It was everything I dreamed of. But no, it's you shared so much valuable stuff. So I always mention this, but one of the things I love about doing the podcast is then I get to go back and listen, like, way better absorb, like, what my guests are sharing. But just the opportunity to connect has been great. So we'll wrap on this. Where can people follow you, your projects? I know you have a website, Mountain Strong, Shameless, all the things. How can we connect?
The easiest place is going to be my Instagram, which is It's Carol Tyner. And that will have my link tree that links out to all the things we mentioned. If you're interested in finding out more about Mountain Strong, mountainstrong828.com is the best place to do that. And yes, for Group Chat Girlies, for the number one thing that you can do is subscribe to our newsletter. So making sure that you can follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our newsletter, which you can find on our website at groupchatgirlies.com.
And caroltyner.com?
And caroltyner.com, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Sorry, you're like the main one that I would like you to talk about.
No, not at all. However you want people to connect. Last night doing research, I was like, oh, she has a website. This is incredible.
She's so talented. And so there's so many things happening. And for Instagram, for Group Chat Girlies, it's GC Girlies, which I always have to remind myself.
I think that's how I initially had written it down in my interview with Skylar, and I brought up the topic of GC Girlies, and she was like, yes, a Group Chat Girlie. I knew the name, I just but yeah, so please follow Carol on Instagram, follow Shameless Improv, Mountain Strong, Group Chat Girlies, go to the websites. I'm going to have it all in the show notes. Make sure get all the links there so you can check that out. But check out an upcoming show of Carol's. I'm losing my voice. We've been talking for so long.
That's right.
But it's been great chatting. you are. I'm gonna do one more time of mirror the intro. You're a hilarious comedian. You're a fantastic person. You are great at improv. Great nonprofit work. You're an inspiring person. You're hilarious. All the adjectives, all the things. But I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story. I know that I resonate with a lot of it. I'm sure a lot of folks listening are going to resonate. I hope they, sincerely, anyone listening, following the show, sees the Instagram post, whatever content we put out from this, like, gets more connected. And if you ever need an opener on the stadium, Tony.
Listen, you're my first call.
Great.
Yeah.
I have it on tape. No, I'm honestly, that's, not to get back into a deep topic, but that's one of the things I've realized, like, it's honestly a joy, and I'm glad just for the opportunity to, like, boost people up and celebrate without any worry of reciprocity. As the Spider-Man cartoon that I was letting our daughter watch on the Disney Channel the other day said, heroes do it because it's the right thing to do, not for the recognition. So having Carol Tyner on the podcast was the right thing to do. Please recognize her, though. She's awesome. And yeah, we'll chat again soon.
Thanks so much for having me.